We are live. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Hobby Chop Podcast, the podcast for the people. I am Big Ken. He is Zip. Zip, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing great. I am super excited for this. We have an awesome guest here, and why don't you introduce him? People are used to hearing me.
Do you want me to introduce myself? I can, yeah.
Well, I'm going to introduce you in
However
anyway.
you want to do it, guys.
We want to welcome in Carrie Williams, flipper, reseller, picker, content creator. Carrie, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. It's a good night. Good night to talk sports cards and the hobby. I'm excited to be here at the Hobby Chop Podcast. I love that name, by the way. That's a good name. I like it. The dual,
That's all Ken.
The dual
That's all
meaning.
Ken.
There we go, Ken. Good job, bro. I like it. It's catchy.
We're celebrating. So, Carrie, let's start a little bit about, who is Carrie, a little bit of your background and your journey so far.
Oh, wow. This is a good one. It's a deep philosophical question to start us out. I've been into cards. We'll say that. I've been into cards since I think I was like 6 or 7. I remember seeing them at like grocery stores and places like that when I was a kid. I might have convinced my parents to buy me a few packs here and there. But what really started it for me, and I remember this, I was 7. It was 1990. My brother, who had the room next to me, his green shag carpeting, had a little box, a little shoebox of cards that he didn't want anymore. It was 77, 78 Topps football and 1990 Donruss baseball. Football, was okay, but the baseball, like the Delino DeShields rated rookie, all that stuff, the Diamond Kings, made me really just get obsessed with it. And I've loved it ever since. Like that feeling deep down inside of like loving it for some reason, this has never really went away. And I've just over time molded it into a business where I can feel like I'm not wasting my time and money. I could be like, oh, I'm doing something with this, so it's fun. But yeah, I did that for years. I collected through most of the 90s. Took a couple years off here and there. I wasn't buying packs in the 2000, Tom Brady year for some reason. I was in high school. I was a sophomore, junior or something. But yeah, even during college, I was collecting off and on. So I've never really been completely out. There's 2 or 3 years I'm gone, 2, 3 years I'm back, pretty much for the last 30 plus years. And I've been reselling cards since I started reselling full time after college. I had a brick and mortar antique store. I was an auctioneer in Utah, and I would sell on eBay, and I would sell a little bit locally, in the shop and at flea markets and stuff off and on. But I've been into cards, a big time selling from flea markets, card shops. Mostly back in the day, it was like Kmart and Walmart and Target buying the retail boxes, which you see in my content when I'm doing my shorts. It's what I've always done. Go buy whatever's the latest thing and open it up and hopefully find something cool. But yeah.
One of the things which I find so interesting, and a lot of times, like when I'm watching your content and other people too, and you have this, is the knowledge. Like you have so much knowledge in the cards, in baseball and football and everything. Like to watch you go through and pull cards out of your stacks, right? And just know right away, like you're calling out players. I'm like, some of those players, I have no idea. I've never even heard of them before. And they're not just professional players. You're like, this guy's going to get drafted next year. This guy, was the number 1 high school recruit. And so it's deep. I mean, your knowledge is super deep on players and cards and things like that.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of easy in a way if you're really into it. And I'm just super passionate about this. And I want to get an edge. I want to learn. I'm not so much of a speculator, so I'm not so much prospecting, hoping the player will go up, in 3 or 4 years, because I'm not holding stuff that long. But I do want to know, like, what could be in these bargain boxes, which is what I'm doing all the time. Like right now, I'm super into the MLB draft. There's a lot of cards in Leaf and other stuff that people don't even follow. And I'm like, who's going to be the, top 15 pick in here that I could buy for $2 and then, right now sell for 5 or wait 2 weeks and sell for, 15. I like that. I find a lot of joy in studying that. And it's something I take pride in. And it just, for whatever reason, that's one gift I have, is that I can remember this stuff pretty well. So thankfully. For now.
Do you think that lane, and you just mentioned that, buy it for 5, move it for 10 or 15 or 20. Do you think that lane is less traveled by a lot of people in the hobby today?
It's a lot of work. It is less traveled overall, I think. But it's an entry point for a lot of people though, and then people move up, and it becomes more difficult as you move up in sports cards with money and making and finding deals. You know, people want 90%, 87% of comps, and then at that point there is a lot of like, I think he's going to do good in a month or two, because otherwise you're not making any money.
Yeah.
You know, so what I want to do is, my whole thing, like part of my thesis as a card person and the card channel, is I want to find the cards that people put in boxes, 3 months ago and forgot about. And then now, guess what? Ellie De La Cruz got called up. I remember being at my local card shop buying like $70 cards from the bargain box because he had just hit, like, what was it, like for the cycle or 4 home runs in his call up that week or something. I forgot what it was exactly. And also, I flipped it quick. I like doubled my money. I wasn't trying to get top dollar on it. I'm like, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get in. I'm going to get out, and probably film it knowing me, and also make money on that end too. So like, it's a fun hustle, and it's a fun job. And I love doing it.
I know part of what I'm doing in the hobby is I don't have the discipline, and I guess that's a lot of what you have too, is the discipline. I seem to always want to swing for the fences, and I say that about myself, but I say that about so many other people that I'm surrounded with in the hobby, that we buy a card and we're thinking, oh, if I buy it for 5, I can get it for 10. Oh, forget it. I want to buy it for 100 and sell it for 300, like that type of thing, to keep going up and I think a lot of discipline is, and that's what I see when I'm watching your videos, even when I see you going to a card store, right? And maybe you can talk about this a little bit, the psychology of it. You go into a card store, you go through a bunch of cards, right? And you go up to the owner and you say, hey, what can you do? And right away if the owner is willing to deal, wants to give you a deal or not. And immediately the discipline with you is, I'm pulling a few cards out. Now I have a stack of 15. Now I pulled 7 out. Immediately you knew exactly what 7, handed the cards back again. Hey, what can we do now? So all of a sudden, those 7 cards, when the price wasn't right, that discipline was like, yep, they're gone.
I try to do that. That's something I'm continually working on. But what it is like, anytime you're building a bundle, and I do this because I also do like the garage sale scene and stuff when I'm buying stuff outside of cards, is the deals oftentimes, especially with this low end stuff, the deals are in the bundles. So I want to find the price point where I can get the best deal possible. And sometimes like owners, card shop dealers, card show dealers, they're stuck on a couple cards. Maybe they paid too much, or maybe they're high on that player or whatever. So I'll take those cards out. I don't need any given card. I'd like them. And it's cool. Sometimes too, you're at a table, like at a card show, and you see them dealing with other people, and you're like, this person's super reasonable. I'm going to like buy twice as much is what I would usually buy, because I know I'm going to get twice as good of a deal. There is like, I don't even comprehend sometimes the psychological stuff going on. I just do it. But I mean, my idea, like certain places, is like, I'm going to always try to throw in some $1, $2 cards when I'm buying bigger cards for me, $10, $20, $30 cards, because oftentimes those are getting thrown in. And those are cards that will hopefully go for $2, $4, $8 in my auction. So that mitigates my risk, right? I know, okay, I'm going to get, this is a $50 bundle. I just threw in $5 cards. That's going to get me $15 back. Now it's a $35 bundle right off the top, plus whatever I'm getting off of it. So, and then I'm making content's a whole nother angle. Like I'm making content of a short and a YouTube. I'm making money off that. So I want to make this profitable on any end that I can do it, because I enjoy doing it. It's what I want to do. So it's got to make sense so I can make a living doing it. So I'll do it. I'll make the money any which way I can. That's ethical.
So I have a question. Obviously, I would say you're a bargain box expert. What's like a mental checklist when you're flipping thousands of cards? I mean, like, what is it that just I'm getting this, I'm not? Because they're quick second decision, right?
Yeah. There's so many layers to it. It's really key is knowing where you're selling your stuff. Like if you're selling only on eBay or only through Whatnot or in one place only, then you know exactly what you got to be looking for. Like if you're selling on Whatnot, you're gonna buy, you're gonna pick up Jaden Daniels rookies when you see them, like pretty much anything for $1 or $2. But if you're selling on eBay, you could be a little bit more creative. You can go, oh, this is a numbered to 150 card from back in the day, that that may sit on, you know, eBay for 3 months or 8 months, but I could get $30 for it. So there's some nuance to it for sure. But there's nothing like, if you want to get in cards, the best thing you can do, even watch a lot of videos in my opinion, but beyond that, is to go to as much stuff as you can. Go to shows, go to card shops that have boxes, and just look. There's no better teacher than just grinding through those boxes, and hopefully you enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy it, it's not going to work. Yep. But you go through those boxes, anything that looks interesting. Oh, that's shiny. Let's look it up. This is cool. I'm doing whatnot. I'm just starting. These shiny cards, I'm going to take it for a spin. And then you go, oh, that bombed or that did well. It's just line upon line, you build up your knowledge base on what people want. I know, you know, Reds cards do well for me. I have a couple Reds fans who are always in my streams. So, like, there's certain things I might buy that might not work as well for you guys, too. So there's nuance to it. Know who your buyers are a little bit as well. But and still, I make mistakes every time I go out, like bad buys. So, like, even then, I still mess up, like, because you just can't bat 1,000. You just got to bat well enough overall to make a profit.
Who are your top guys right now? Who are the top players in any sport, any name? Who are you, like, when you're looking right now, present day? Who are the top people you're looking for?
I've been buying Seth Hernandez a little bit and having luck with him. He's a number 2 rated high school guy right now. Probably going to be in the top 10 of the MLB draft in 2 weeks. Now, this doesn't mean go out and buy him, and I don't really give buying advice so much, but I'll tell you why I picked him up recently is I've gotten him cheap. You know, I found him for $2-3, and then I've sold a couple of his cards for 20. Now that could change tomorrow. You know, the market could go up and down. I recently bought like a 101 of him that we'll see. I paid up on it. Instead of paying like $2, I paid 30. So that could I could win or lose at that price, but I took a chance. You know, P. Crow Armstrong, baseball's been really hot for me. I've learned that from Tim, my co-host on No Bangers, is baseball feels deeper, like with the fan bases and stuff, whereas like basketball this last year was really tough. It wasn't the strongest class. There's good players in there that may especially pan out long term and be stars. I don't know. But like beyond even there really wasn't hardly anybody to latch onto. You know, Jared McCain for a little bit, Stephen Castle. But with baseball, like you can get into the 7th, 8th rated prospect on a team, not even like overall. And like there's people looking for them. And if you get them at the right price, there could be margins there. So I've been playing with baseball a lot more. More collectors, I feel like, overall in baseball as well. But I love it, man. I'll buy professional bull riding cards. I'll buy anything. I just like cards, and I like flipping cards. And it's a challenge, and hopefully I hit more homers than I strike out. That's the goal.
So there are
Singles
professional
or bunts
bull
or
riding
walks.
cards?
I'll take anything. What's up?
There are professional bull riding cards? Like that's a thing?
They haven't made any for a while. There's some from the 90s called High Gear.
Wow.
There's like the guy who was in the part of the, well, he wasn't in the movie. He passed away. He died in the movie, but he was highlighted in the movie 8 Seconds. It was I forgot his name, Lane something. Like his card in that set's like $9-10. Like that, and there's some autos from that set, I believe, too. Like that's the little stuff that you never know when you're going to come across it, but it would be cool to find it, and so I could just talk about it on the channel and be like, you know what, in a quarter box, this might be worth picking up, because right now the comps are $5.50 plus shipping, or $8. You know, you could pass too if you don't want to deal with that kind of stuff, but you know, it's the kind of weird stuff I dig.
And you find those people, you're bringing those people that are coming into your streams that are looking for just a lot of these oddball cards too, or they're really more.
Sometimes it depends. Every stream is different. One thing you'll learn about live auctions is every time you think you understand what's going on and how to master it, at least for me, the next time you get kind of punched in the mouth. So it's a constant. And I did live auctions, like literally. I was an auctioneer. I've done 50, 60, 70, 80 live auctions in my time doing it. And every time I felt like I had a handle on it, you know, something changes. Buyers don't show up for one auction that usually buy that stuff. So you're overloaded on that card because you had 2 buyers, but now you only have 1, so they're going for 1 bid instead of 8 bids. So there's a lot of nuance to it. There's an art to, it's kind of fun. The auctions, there is an art. It's like, okay, I really loaded up on this type of card and it's not hitting today, so I've got to go to my other box here that has, they want Star Wars today, so I have to have some Star Wars prepped for them. Yeah. So and that's kind of the dance of it and the fun of it. But I do get some people who like certain stuff, and I think it's because they found my videos and they like me and they like what I have a certain taste and they have similar taste. And a lot of it for me is like 45, 55 to 35-year-old guys who collected in the 80s and 90s and whatever I dug when I was a kid, or thought was neat.
What's wrong with those guys?
No, that's my guys is what I'm saying. Like I'm saying, like that's a lot of my. It's the people who relate to what I like because they're my dudes. They were the ones collecting when I was collecting as a kid. So,
yeah,
I think that's like my demo overall. Like I don't do a lot of vintage, like be it like in the 70s and 60s, and then I do some modern. So maybe some younger kids too. But like, you kind of have to know who you're selling to too a little bit.
Yep.
So when you're in a live auction, are you like, to get the feel of how the live auction is going to go, are you like testing out a card here or there to kind of go? Cool.
100%.
Maybe.
I did that today. Yeah.
Okay.
I do it every auction. Like I'll be like, okay, I've recently been buying a lot of WNBA stuff. Yesterday I did an auction and it did not go well. And today it did well. So like I tested out a couple cards. I'm like, I'm not going to force it. And today it did great. It's just the crowd. It's the day. It's maybe what happened in the news. It's maybe if there's a big play or a big highlight on TikTok or YouTube or on SportsCenter or whatever. So I just try to have stuff that I feel comfortable I can make money on, and I might not sell it in an auction for 5 weeks because it's just. And there's times where you'll put a card up in an auction and then you'll put it up the next week and no bids, and then the third week you get 5 bids and sell for $6. So like then sometimes I'll just give it away because I'm sick of dealing with it. So there's everything in between as well. But there's a lot of nuance to live auctioning, and it's fun, and it's really like a psychological thing. I think it's good for your brain. Like I think it's good like just to kind of figure out how to think on your feet, stay positive. I don't want to be the guy that's yelling go go go, bid bid bid. Look, if my card sells for less than I paid, that's on me, right? Yeah. That's because, well, first off, you got a deal, so I want to celebrate that because you got a bargain deal. Awesome. You should be able to make money on that. And two, if I lost money, that's my fault, not anybody else's. Like I overpaid or didn't get a good enough deal or I didn't run it at the right time. And overall, in the scope of the whole auction, I should be profitable. But an individual card could go lower or higher than you expect. So,
and both is going to keep people coming back.
Exactly. Right? You need to have cards that go for undervalue so that people come back, and because I have dudes that go in there and they're super disciplined. Like I'm pretty sure they only buy the deals, which good for them. Like, and then they don't buy anything else. And there's other people who, I'd say most people will buy a deal, but then they'll also buy because they're an Oakland A's fan or something. They're like, I'll pay $4 for that. That's just going in my PC binder. So you get a little bit of that, and then some people are just like, I'm going to have this card at all costs, and another guy feels the same way, and then that's when a card goes for way over comps because people are what they call in the auction business, they get in a pissing match. So that and that happens just because people are excited, and as long as they're happy in the end, that's all that matters. So,
So I know the National's coming. You have a little bit going on, the road to the National.
Yeah.
How do you put that together when you're, and I know you're planning a trip, you're stopping along the way, right? All the way to Chicago or it's Orlando.
I'm not going to do I'm in the Orlando area right now in East Coast, kind of in between Jacksonville and Orlando. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be shorter this year than usual because I'm usually coming from the West Coast. It kind of came from the fact that we're not big flyers, me and my girlfriend, and we've been going cross country to it, but it made sense. Like we could go cross country in garage sale, and as cards content came, I could go to card shops. So this year it's a little shorter. I mean, it's like 2 days instead of 5. So I should hit one on the way up and probably one on the way back, and then go to the National. And I'll maybe hit 3. I mean, that's part of the fun of it. It's cool at this point. Like, there's shops in Kansas City I've been to several times. There's shops in Lincoln, Nebraska I've been to several times. I don't live anywhere near either of those places. Never have. But just now that since we drive, we take advantage of that and try to find a cool content angle. And it's not super produced. It's just me with my GoPro and Dawn sometimes with the camera if she wants to come inside, or she might just play on her TikTok in the car, just whatever she feels like.
And the plan for the National, are you just digging through boxes? I mean, is this the
plan? Like, oh gosh, the National, like for somebody who does content, it's a lot different. And part of the fun for me is the content angle of it. Honestly, that's 50%, if not more. I mean, I love all of it. And it would be cool just to go there and just only dig and not have any other worry. That would be really fun, and just flip cards or collect. But my whole goal when I go there is probably to have, like, I'm going to feel competitive with the other content creators knowing me. So I'm going to want to have a video out every morning after. So probably 4 or 5 videos while I'm there, and then have maybe hours and hours of footage that I could chop up into shorts and footage when I get home. So that's part of my game plan. I'm going to get there like on a Wednesday. I'm going to try to film on my GoPro. This is like in the weed stuff for content creators. But the way I do it at the National so that I can produce stuff fast is I will film a lot on my phone. Like I'll have Dawn just ask me questions. You know, what did you find? And then you'll see that more in my National footage. And then maybe I'll take a couple segments from my GoPro, maybe use my DJI a little, and have 10-minute video that I can put out the next morning. Because we're going to trade nights. Everybody wants to hang out after, so I've got to get that done in like 2 hours before I go to sleep. Yeah. And then hopefully I can get a video every day, and then have a bunch of footage that I never used that I can use for other videos, and of course find cards that I can flip and have fun and open packs and talk to people. It's overwhelming, but my whole goal honestly is to try to just enjoy that moment, because it's like a once a year thing that's special, that I'm going to put a lot of maybe pressure on myself to get the most out of, but I want to ultimately have a good time. And if it doesn't go that way and I don't do as many videos, it's no biggie, but that's the goal.
Yeah.
I can imagine it would be hard to top your last year's National.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the goal here. Like, just another one of one, you know.
I was going to say, Ken, do you know about what happened to him at the last year's National?
Is the Caitlin Clark card?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was wild. The coolest part about that, I mean, there's so many interesting little intricacies of that story, but that was the last day. Everything. I wasn't going to do a video that day, first off, content-wise, but I was just hanging out, kind of chilling, no pressure that day. I'd been talking to Dawn about how I wanted to open one of those packs. We were debating whether I was going to just buy one or she actually convinced me to get a box and go get one the way I did. Because I remember watching, it might have been Sports Card Radio back in the day, before they did the kind of content they do now. They would just go around the National showing footage and kind of talking. Nobody else did it in 2015 or 16. And I'd watch that and I'd see the packs and I wanted to open one so bad. And, you know, I didn't also probably have the money to go buy one on eBay for $70 or whatever they were. So I finally decided to do it. I bought that, and I was just going to make a TikTok out of it. You know, I'm going to open this optic box, and let's see, you know, maybe I'll get a number 1099 card or something in this. And then the way that it came out, I ended up having a real cool moment that I was able to film. And then just in general, like, everything worked perfectly. We were about to move cross country. The card got a 10. I don't know how. I almost dropped it 7 times. Everybody was cool. They gave me like a case for it for free, you know. People, every angle, there's a guy next to me trying to buy it for nothing, you know. Like, I had people on. It was weird. Like, it was a fun experience. And I thought, like, from the moment I opened, I'm like, oh, like a $1,000 card. And then within 5 minutes, I'm like, this might be like a $5,000 card. And then once it got a 10, and then she was on fire. Like, it ended up going for, my cut was like $34.5. Like, and I'm a bargain boxer, so that was a lot of money for a card that I was got out of a pack the last day of a National. So that won't ever happen again. That's a once in a lifetime thing.
Hey, never say never.
Well, I mean, dude, if it does, I will accept it. I want to put some of that mojo towards Tim, because me and Rod got a 101 in a Ashton Genty in one of our split case breaks recently. Me and Rod, I actually split a case with him once. That's it. That's as crazy as I'll go. But and Tim, we want Tim to get one. I want to see Tim get a major one. But he doesn't open. That's the problem with Over the Years Sports, the guy on No Bangers with me. He doesn't like to open.
He's got the baby mojo.
He's got to get the baby mojo. Like, even if he just only opens
it
one.
needs to happen. I'm pulling for him too.
So yeah, if we're rooting for anybody to have that happen too, it's got to be Tim.
Yeah. Well, and you said one of ones. You got the none of none.
I did get the none of none. See, that was insane. So that was the guy who's since become a good friend, Big Tom. He's at the Webster Flea Market in Florida. He does like the card show scene. I'm going to an Orlando card show this weekend. He'll be dealing. Like, I just met him that day. He was a fan of the podcast. We were just talking. He had a fun box. I was going through finding a couple cool things, and then he's like, I got some stuff in the back. You know, he brought out some fresh stuff, which is always cool to see fresh stuff. And it was just like kind of like filler stuff, maybe for an auction in there. I was looking. I was like, probably won't buy much of anything out of this box. But then I saw the Ginter and just the bargain box training of flipping cards over, double checking, and it having the one of one. And then I let him know, because I'm like, dude, you know, you do what you want on this, man. Like, I'll take it for cheap, obviously, but if you want to sell it on eBay, you know, do it. It's no biggie. But like, that ended up being a fun moment. And then I still have it. I think I'm taking it to National. I want to grade it, like, just so it can say authentic.
Yeah.
Too many people complain about it being written one of one, even though that's a Ginter thing.
Yeah.
I just want to get it authenticated before I sell it so that everybody's cool with it. And that'll be another thing I can talk about. So it'll be fun.
That brings up a dilemma. So when is it, as a bargain boxer, when you're like, hey, dude, I think you made a mistake, but also like you're spending all the time going through all these cards trying to find the score, right? Like, I mean, ideally, you find something that'll be worth the time. So
I don't really think you have to do that necessarily. What I did in that one case, there was some extenuating things going on. Like we were talking, he was a fan of what we were doing. With that one, I probably would have done it either way, honestly, because that was such a cool card and a big one. But yeah, it's tough. You kind of just go with the flow. Like that card was so rare that I felt like to tell him, and I've done that several times. You know, and a lot of times, you know, you find a great card, and you know, it's usually like a $15-$20 card, so no biggie. But when it's something crazy, I think almost every time they just say keep it to me. Like, and one time somebody's like, oh, that wasn't supposed to be in there, and they priced it and put it in a different box. But that's fine. Like, I wouldn't tell them otherwise. I don't think that's an interesting discussion. I don't think you have to do that though. It's just if you feel like you should, do it. If you don't feel like you should, don't do it. I mean, it's in the box. It's priced what it's priced. We're bargain boxing. We're digging. We're doing the work. And I think that's what I get the most out of that is like people are like, you're digging. You're finding it. I didn't know. Have at it. You earned it kind of thing. A lot of times is the vibe I get from dealers. They're like, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you find the diamond in the rough and it's like, hey, here's the diamond. Are you sure? Like, you know, but I think it speaks volumes of who you are, right? Like, I think that says a lot because I think I would have just kept going, to be completely honest with you. But I guess
I also want to make it like it's tough too because I don't really think it would have been wrong to keep to not say anything really necessarily
I don't think
either.
so.
I don't think so. So I don't want to say like it was a good, like it was a gray area. You could have went either way, and I think both could make sense. You know what I mean? I don't think it was like a, you know what I mean? It wasn't anything that I think would have been wrong either way. But that's just what I did, and I filmed it. I thought that was cool, a cool moment. You know, and that was naturally what I felt like doing in that moment. And there's been times, I mean, usually don't find something that crazy, but there's been times I find, you know, $100 cards in a bargain box that isn't a 101, and I've just, you know, bought it. So I mean, it's not like I always do that either. So.
And do you think to yourself immediately, oh, this is going to be some great content?
Yeah, you doing what I do, yeah. Because part of what we do, like part of what me and Rod, like especially like me and Rod, because we both do a lot of flea markets, picking and punching cards. Like we're looking for those moments because I look at what we do as kind of television, although we're on much smaller scale, I'm not saying we're big or anything. But we need to have hooks and thumbnails and stuff that get people to click. And then hopefully we're good enough at making a video that they want to stick around and watch in the future. But like when I see something like that, a 1-of-1 in a bargain box, it's like, wow, cool. You know, this is going to be a fun thing for a video, and it performed well. You know, and sometimes the moments are negative. Usually they're positive, but sometimes there's just like somebody, like I had on my main channel a video where I was trying to buy some coins because I was doing a lot of whatnot. I'm like, I'll throw some coins, and it was a deal I was already on the fence about. And then I was tired. I don't feel like he was super clear. It was really neither of our faults, but there was a little bit of a discussion. I paid, and then he told me it was different cards on the table or different coins on the table than I thought were in the deal. He's like, that wasn't in the deal. So I just said, I asked for my money back because I was still at the table. You know, I'm not a very assertive person in general, but in that case I'm like, let's just make it simple. Just give me my money back. That's not what I wanted. That blew up, that video, mostly negative against me. That was the funny thing, because when I had left that flea market, I'm like, oh man, that guy was kind of a jerk to me, you know. And then I watched the footage and I'm like, oh, I kind of messed that up. Like I wasn't paying attention. I was talking and I was tired, but I still edited it and put it out, and then people took me to town. I went through a time on TikTok, and sometimes I still hear it where I was the back out coin guy for that. I still have people occasionally call me that to this day, a year and a half later. So it's all good. It's all part of content. It goes both ways.
Yeah. You know, and whether it's good or bad, right?
Yeah.
If they remember you, it worked.
Yeah, and I think as long as you're true to yourself and you try to be a good person, it should never be in bad in a way that's going to be a big deal. But like, yeah, I'm going to negotiate a deal, and every video I do, it's like that. They'd be like, if I ask for less, and I'm not a great negotiator as it is typically.
And you would think all this you're doing, all the flea markets and all that, you would think you're
how do I
very
put it?
sharp.
I am good
negotiator.
at it. I am a passive personality sometimes, so I won't push. So I'm good at it, but I don't push myself with it sometimes. So I oftentimes will get in the habit of just taking the price that people give me if I think it's good enough. Whereas a more shrewd person in business would realize they probably could get a little bit more off and make more of a profit because we're trying to make money here and not to be rich, but just to provide for our families, right? So it's not for a bad reason. But oftentimes I'm not pushy with that. So in that sense, I think I can improve. But I know how to negotiate because
Yep.
it's simple when you get down to it. It's a battle of who could care less, right?
Yes.
If that's all a negotiation is, if I care less than you, I will win a negotiation every time because like I'm willing to walk away if you don't give me my number, right? And then I guess I don't lose because I don't care because I'm not going to pay what I don't want to pay. So it's always a battle of who can care less in a negotiation every time, and then hopefully it could be fun and playful, and everybody could have a good time. And I also realize, people are flipping at card shows, so I want to make sure that if it's possible, they can make money on it, and if it isn't, then either they're going to take a loss because they want to get rid of it, right? Or they're because they've had it too long, or it's just something they're sick of seeing, or they're not going to make a deal with me, and that's totally cool. It's all good.
You said something
win-win.
interesting there that it's playful and you hope everybody has a good time, and I would think most people, a good amount of people, understand this is a hobby and we're here to have fun, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that that $1 or $2 or those $5 they make a world of difference in between everybody's playful and having a good time or you get
I
name
think it's a
called.
I think it's a little easier with the lower end stuff. People are less attached, especially at card shows. Like they have their showcases of the stuff that they're excited about, their downtowns, their $1,000 cards. Most of the times when you're coming up with a stack of $200 worth of $1 to $5 cards, they'll give you $50 off sometimes because they're
Yeah.
just like, I'm glad to get rid of a big chunk of this, and you put a lot of time in. Take them, dude. Thank you. Come back again. I love it. So. It's a little harder to get a deal if you bring them $2 cards or $3 worth of cards, and you're probably going to pay $3 or two, maybe if you're lucky. But if you bring a stack, I feel like you're helping them pay for their table on stuff that they didn't care about or weren't expecting to sell necessarily.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I can't. I was inspired by the No Bangers podcast. So you can ask Ken. I brought an empty 3-row Zion case, like a
There we
huge
go.
one, empty, and a bunch of cash. And he didn't see me the whole day. And I came back full of the bargain box stuff. And the reception I got digging was one of it was way more polite, but it was also some of them were almost just dismissive and didn't care what I took out, but not in not in a rude dismissive.
Yeah, no,
but,
it's just there's stuff they're not attached to.
it was yeah, whatever, yeah, sure.
And that's the same thing when you go to garage sales and stuff. If I was going to a garage sale, like the perfect garage sale with pop culture stuff, cards, action figures, 70s, 80s toys, of course that's what I want to buy, but sometimes they're attached to that stuff. So you got to find the old, the old, Walkman from 1981 that they have $2 on that they don't care about, but it's worth $150. So you have to kind of go, and typically the bargain boxes are where they don't care. Or they're not as attached. They're just happy to move it. Because when you're coming with a big stack and you're paying a couple $100, that's paying for a good chunk of their table off stuff that they, didn't necessarily anticipate selling in bulk. Sometimes they do if they have buyers. Some people do, but they're anticipating making their money on the big cards, and that's, to me, I feel like a lot of times that's bonus stuff they get in breaks, extra that they get in collections. They're not as attached to, so it's easier to make deals on stuff that people are less attached to.
Or for me, opening up all the boxes, right? I rip a ton of boxes. I'll rip a case of something, right? And then I'll take what I'm going to keep or I'm going to grade, and then I sleeve up everything. I put them in 2, 3, 4, 5-row boxes, right? Put them out on the table, and I say all the time, it pays for the day. It pays for the table, pay for lunch, pay for gas, right? And of course, the cards, I didn't get them free. I mean, they all cost money, but I'm happy, like you said, I'm happy to move those cards. And when people come up and they're the bigger the stack, the better the discount I'm giving them, because I'm excited they're taking them.
Exactly. That's typically what I find. And it's different. sometimes with smaller dealers, newer dealers, the bargain boxes might be all they bring. You know, that's where they're starting. So that might be they're a little bit more particular on their prices, and I totally understand that. And in general, I'll hand a stack to somebody and be willing to pay whatever's on that price tag. I typically assume I'm going to get a discount. I don't necessarily ask for it, but it's just like doing this long enough. If I put a big enough stack up, I assume they're probably going to give me some off. But I will pay the sticker typically. My recent video that I did, like I was already on the edge about a couple cards. So once they said like the price, I'm like, I'm going to take some stuff back because I expected them to go a little bit down. And I was picking up bigger cards, so they were less inclined probably. You know, it wasn't bargain. It wasn't my typical $2, $5 card. It was a $30 card, a $40 to 10. So I can understand it's going to take me some time to figure that game out, and that's exciting to me. I like that. How am I going to figure this out? How am I going to learn how to get in this range a little bit more so that I could theoretically, like, there's this whole idea of like what's the real value of an item, right? Like a real value of a card. What could I get on an auction right now for this card? It's different than eBay sometimes, or it's different than golden auction. This card might be worth 20 on my auction, but if I put it on eBay, it's worth 40, you know, because I want to get it. So I've got to try to get it under whatever that real value is. And that's hard to determine because every auction is different. Sometimes it could be more than that 40 because people are bidding it up because they're excited. So it's fun. It's like a game, and I try to figure it out, and I hedge my bets 40 different ways with TikToks about it, and and YouTube videos so that I can make money on every aspect of this, not just for making money's sake, but because I want to do this full time and I got to, and it's part of the game. So
differences between buying at a card show, in a card shop, or buying at a flea market or tag sale. I mean, your thoughts on the differences.
Differences between what was the first one?
So going to a card show, and I guess what I'm getting at, going to a card show that, you know, if you start hitting those $10, $15, $20 cards, people will immediately start comping them to see what they last sold for, things like that. Versus if you go to a flea market or a tag sale,
I don't think
people are going to be, you know, looking at those.
In general, there's some major differences. Like, you're going from the place where people are most educated about cards to the place where they're probably least educated about the cards. In general, obviously, I go to yard sales and people are like us and they're selling their cards, you know, and they go to card shows. So it's not always the case. But at a card show, you're dealing with people typically who generally know what they have. So the bargain box is a good place to get deals because, like we've talked about, that's where they're least attached or where they're happy to get rid of some of those cards, and they're cool having an $8 card go for $1 or $2 because they'll let you do the legwork, which is what I do. But at a flea market, it's weirdly in the middle, good and bad. Sometimes flea markets are like dudes who have been doing this for 40 years that have no clue what pricing is on any of these cards, and they're way high. They just assume, like, 1991 set is still worth $30 or something, and I'm like, I don't even know anybody buying sets anymore. People put them together sometimes. I know that's like a fun hobby, but like buying complete sets is different than what it used to be in the 90s in general. So, like, but there's also people who are just, getting stuff out of storage lockers there, and they're like, I don't want to deal with this, dude. Just buy them all, or they're willing to deal. Like, I can get collections that way. Some of my best finds this year have been just big box buyouts at the flea market. And a yard sale, a lot of times is somebody who, it could even be a person who's, their kid could have moved out and they don't know anything about the cards, and they're just trying to get rid of the cards because they don't want to put it back in their garage for another year. So you could get some killer deals that way, and that's part of what they understand, that there could be value there. I mean, any person in the world probably understands there's value in cards, and typically the less educated you are, I feel like, the more value you think cards have because of what you've heard on the news. So, like, they realize there could be some value there, but they're not going to go put in that work. And, and I'll always tell somebody, if they're talking to me, they're like, oh yeah, I'll tell them, these could be worth money. If you want to put them on eBay, it's work, but you could do it and you'd make more money. So, but obviously if I want to do all that work, then I've got to get a good enough deal so it's worth my time to go piece it out wherever I piece it out. So,
yeah.
But there's a big nuance between all three. It's fun. It's definitely, and I feel like my videos, since I'm going to garage sales and flea markets naturally for other stuff, it gives me an advantage because a lot of guys aren't showing that in the card space because, I'm going for other reasons too. So if I don't find any cards on a given day, it's not like a total waste of my time.
Yep.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, when you were talking about flea markets and then the prices being super high, I was like, what would a good line, if you were to make an over under of how many times you heard of what the Beckett value of a card was at a flea market, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys who will talk about Beckett's, you know, they're like, but with the value, like, it feels like the flea market, it's a lot of just like, I think it's worth this much. You know, it's just like they have a very strong, like, not always strong, but sometimes they'll have a very strong opinion on a value that I don't know where they're pulling the value out of. You know what I mean?
Right.
And to be fair, there's a lot of people, there are a segment of people at flea markets that are, you know, just us, you know, just, they know their stuff. They are card dealers. Part of their business model for cards is going to flea markets. So there's that as well. So, but when you get the people who are general resellers doing storage units, you know, they may come up with that's a Jose Canseco rookie. I remember when I was a kid, somebody sold it for $20 down the street, $20, you know, it's not worth that anymore. Or, you know, or they say like, yeah, you could grade that, you know. I'm like, well, look at it. It's got a bent corner. I'm not going to bother, you know. So they don't understand that. Or they'll say it's worth this much. And I saw a graded one for $400. I'm like, all right, go grade it. You should grade it and see how it goes. And I hope it goes well for you. And you can make $400, but I'm not your guy, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Card Vibe in the chat asked, have you considered vending, setting up as a vendor?
I've done flea markets in the past. I had a brick and mortar store in Utah for antiques, and I did my auctions out of there for like 7-8 years. I had a couple different locations, almost a decade. I'm kind of done with that part of it. I actually like going and buying in person and selling online. It's kind of a little different. There probably will be a point where I set up at a table, maybe at a card show or something. Problem is, at this moment, like, I'm moving stuff so fast, I don't have like a very compelling table to show people. Like, I have some of my, you know, low end stuff that's online, and then everything else is going through Whatnot pretty quickly, or maybe I'll send it out to DC Sports or something. Like, I'm not really holding on to my really good stuff very long, typically. It's not my game plan. So I'm open to it. Maybe down in the future, my business model changes up over time, which is, you know, tends to happen, and I may do it. I think it would be fun. I know a lot, and it's a cool content. Like, I don't know if you know who Talon Sports Cards is, Brian.
Yep.
In Vegas. Like, he started blowing up doing that. I mean, like, he was already pretty big, but like, he started focusing a lot on the vending at the shows. And I know that's like, for somebody who creates content, I know that's like killer content to be made. But part of what I'm doing is like, I want to do what I like the way I do it, and I want to be like I was talking about before we were live. I was like, I want people to go with me with my GoPro and feel like they're like with me, or they are me looking through the cards. They're seeing hands and they're like telling me, you know, they're thinking in their head, oh, why did he pass that? I would have bought that. You know, oh, he got a good one, good score, you know. I think it gives you a different perspective as opposed to some of the other hobby videos where it's third person and it's like a production, you know.
Yep. You were at the Orlando card show. You did a video from there, and you were going through a box, and you hit the WNBA, and there was all the autos, and I'm watching this, and you're pulling them out, and I'm like, oh, I do a ton of WNBA, and I go to all the shows up here, and you can't find any of that.
It's,
you know,
cool, yeah. I mean, I love the stuff that's like, it feels like is an emerging market. Like, we talked about it on No Bangers a bit, like all the female women's sports stuff. Like, I love the women's soccer card stuff. I'd love to find some of the women's hockey cards, which I haven't found out and about yet. I think it's fun. I love to find markets that there is demand, but they're underserved, right? There's not enough people finding and selling the cards. Like a Jaden Daniels, you know, Prism rookie card you can go find right now on 18 different streams on Whatnot. You know, you can find them everywhere. I'll find them at every shop around America. Like, the more obscure stuff is fascinating to me, and it's not really obscure. WNBA, like, those cards are blowing up for a reason. It's changed in the last couple years massively compared to what it used to be, and it's awesome.
Yep. 100%. And with Caitlin Clark, I mean, she's really, you know, catapulted the WNBA, but not only that, the card industry, right? We were just talking about those boxes that just dropped. I mean, I know they started at 30,000, they sold at 3,000, but they're still selling at 3,000, right? Yeah. People are still out there chasing, and they're buying those boxes for one reason and one reason only. I mean, they're just trying to hit Caitlin Clark out of those boxes, and sometimes that's all it takes is one player, right?
Yeah,
One,
it reminds me. I think of like Jordan in the '80s, like taking. It felt like Jordan took the NBA into like a new stratosphere. Although it was already, you know, Magic and Bird. There was a lot of great things going on in the NBA at that time. But I think Jordan kind of catapulted it into the '90s, and how like we didn't really have basketball cards in the '80s, and in the '90s there's thousands of iconic cards that I can remember. So like I feel like it's the beginning of something, and over time, there's going to be new stars emerge, and it's cool. I think it opens up people's eyes to the WNBA if you're paying attention. If you know like Nalissa Smith, or like the other players who are really good right now in the WNBA.
yeah,
Like I found a Sophie Cunningham, a number to 299, and honestly, her card popped up quite a bit because of what happened recently in the fight and stuff. But I found that in a dollar box. I think I sold it for $12, $15, something like that, I believe, somewhere around there. Real quick. And it just, that's a card that probably I couldn't have sold a couple years ago.
yeah.
So
And again, the discipline. I ripping a ton of WNBA. All these cards that you're mentioning, those 10, 12, $15 cards, and I just keep sleeving them, top loading them, and putting them in boxes, right? Where they're probably $2, $4, $5, $8 cards, right? That I could probably, in the prospecting mind, right? I'm thinking to myself, what this has just been an unbelievable rookie, this whole rookie class, right? That came along with Caitlin, and why not hold these cards a little longer? Like, is this going to be the year that people look back on and say,
it's interesting, because I have a lot of thoughts on like prospecting in general, and I'm not giving any advice to anybody, but like I always feel like you always hear, and we all have the stories of the person who like you bought low and it sold for more, right? But I feel like for every one of those stories, every one of us have another group of people that we probably more than the ones that panned out. So it seems like if you extrapolated it out, you probably are at a net negative, because for most people, because you're just prospecting on everything. My goal is always, when I'm in the bargain box, is find a card that I could flip right now. Worst case, I can get my money back or a little profit right now. And then if I want to hold it for a little bit and see if it goes up, cool. If not, I'll cash out with my little profit or break even. I don't really want to buy hoping a card's going to go up, if that makes sense. That's not my goal. When I want to do arbitrage, I want to find a deal that I could make a profit on right now, and maybe I'll wait for a couple months. But I'm not a long-term guy. A lot of people are, and they do well at it. It's just not I'm a fast nickel over a slow dime kind of guy when it comes to business. So
when it comes to cards, do you have a PC? Do you have some cards that you put aside that say, these are mine?
Box over there. Yeah, and I want like Utah guys, because I grew up in Utah for most of my life. I like underdogs and underappreciated players a lot. Like I have a little bit of an NFL bust collection. I love that kind of stuff. So I'll buy I might be like, if you have a high end Achilles Smith Senior now, because he has a son coming up now, or Tim Couch cards, or and for Utah, I like the role players on the Jazz in the '90s more than I don't really care about Karl Malone or John Stockton cards, but I'm interested in Greg Ostertag, Antoine Carr. Just the more obscure, the better. Howard Isley, John Crotty. Those are the weird guys that I remember. I probably thought sucked when I was a kid. I'm more interested in that. And then anybody who went to the University of Utah, where I went to school. So football, basketball, any sport.
So is Ace Bailey a guy? Because I guess you could say he's underrated, whatever happened in the draft, because he was supposed to be the number 3 overall, and he dropped, what was that? Was Utah 6 or 5?
We were 5. We got the worst case scenario for being the worst team in the league. Yeah, you were going to get 1 through 5 you were tied, I think, with 3 teams for the best odds. So we really got I was really upset about that. We've never had the first pick in the draft ever. I think we've had the 3rd pick a couple times. We got Ennis Cantor one year, I remember, in the 3 slot. But considering what happened, I think we did pretty good. Now, there was the whole thing about whether he wanted to be in Utah, but like he's been super cool in all the stuff I've seen. So that could have been, maybe they were just trying, because I think about that a lot. When you're getting drafted, you're like an adult, right? You should be able to work where you want to work, but like they don't have a choice, and that's to make it competitive and fair. I understand why. So I can understand if you have a little influence to try to, hey, I'd like, don't draft me, I'd rather go here. But he seemed like he handled it real well once he did get drafted, and I'm excited. He's talented. He's like probably 2 or maybe 3rd most talented guy in that draft, I'd guess.
I think
we need players, man. We need, and we got a good young core. We're still years away from being anything, but we're hoping it'll be like an OKC kind of thing.
Depending how Edgecombe and Knipple end up, he could look like a steal.
Yeah, I was thinking we were going to get Knipple that whole time, but then Ace fell to us. So I'm excited about it. We also got which is kind of cool, like we got the Walter Clayton, who's just 80 minutes away or 80 miles away from me in Florida, the Florida guy. So that's kind of cool that he's going to Utah, and I'm basically in this neck of the woods now. So I've got I'm trying to get into the Gators a little bit because they seem like the closest team to me out here. And they're pretty good typically. So I'm gonna try to have a team out here, unless Utah shows up, which they may at some point for some game somewhere, and then I'll go check those out. But
I've been really enamored and just interested in the college products. Like truthfully, I haven't bought nearly anywhere close to how much I've been researching and just looking into Bowman U stuff. What are your thoughts on kind of these college products emerging into? I feel like it's a more solidified market than it's ever been. And
we're going to hear less and less. Sorry, I interrupt a lot.
No, you're good.
That's my thing. We're going to hear less and less people over time, which historically we've all heard it, like college stuff nobody wants. And that's just not the case. I think what the issue is there was no college products. And then we'd get a Sage or something come out, or a Press Pass, and you'd have a couple months before the real stuff came out. And sometimes that was unlicensed too. And then the real stuff came out, and with pro uniforms, and then that stuff did kind of lose a lot of value. Still some niche value though. I find that stuff all the time. But I think now that they're showing the logos and college football in some states is bigger than pro. You're in Alabama. You care more about Auburn or the Crimson Tide than any NFL team. So
we're both in Connecticut, and that's why he was going nuts about the WNBA stuff. The women's, it's got to be the mecca.
JC, you got JC Sheldon, right? Or what is that her name?
At the Sun. Yep, JC Sheldon.
Yeah.
We're talking UConn though. That's who we're locked into.
Oh yeah, Dove. Yeah, Paige Buchers and all them. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, and Utah's similar. A lot of people have allegiance to the 49ers because, growing up for me, the BYU kid went to the 49ers, Steve Young. So there's some allegiance to Denver a little bit in Utah, but overall it's BYU or Utah is what it is in Utah. And there's, you're in South Dakota, South Dakota and South Dakota State. I don't know what it is. So certain places that don't have NFL teams, it is college football number one. So yeah. I think, and that's what I love. I love going and get a Bowman U product and, knowing if you get a Iowa autograph, it's not going to go for the lowest amount, even if it's a nobody, because the Iowa people are crazy about the Hawkeyes. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can get a premium, especially if they're good. Oh my gosh, like Caitlin Clark, her Iowa stuff, I think will always have some value because they love what she did there. So
yeah, and it's interesting what you mentioned too about that, because we're here in Connecticut, right? So we have the Patriots, we have the Giants, we have the Jets, then we have the hockey team with the Bills, then we have all the hockey with the Bruins, the Rangers, So when it comes to college, I mean, we're obviously UConn fans because we're winning national championships, right? But in a lot of these other states that don't have this, that college, whether they're winning national championships or not, that college is the most important thing they have. Those are their teams, and there's a lot of money invested in. There's a lot of just like we do here with major sports. So yeah, I mean, I really think since the Bowman U product has come out and it's really given them, and now certain players, you're getting their actual college jerseys now, right? So some of them, which we joked, like Juju Watkins was in her high school jersey, on her Bowman first, right? But now, I think it's getting exciting. It's brought a whole new level of collecting, right? Yeah. It gives you all these new boxes to buy, new players to collect, players to prospect, but not even prospect, just to flip.
Yeah, exactly. That's the angle too, because you can prospect, of course, but I mean, ultimately this year, when Jackson Dart has pro uniform stuff, his college uniform stuff, and he's huge, I'm sure, in Mississippi playing at Ole Miss and everything, but his NFL stuff's going to be worth more money. But the cool thing was last year, people, and still at this moment, flipping the Ole Miss stuff because he's playing right now. He just had just like the NFL, he had a 300-yard game or whatever. I'm going to flip this card. He's projected to be in a first round now. I'm going to flip the card. it adds a whole new group of people we can go look for when we're going
Yep.
and opening boxes or looking through cases. If you're doing high end or bargain boxes like me, it just adds more layers to it, which makes it more fun, in my
Yep.
opinion. Like there, and Leaf just got the minor league baseball license, which
Mhm.
I'm not sure if that means they're going to have logos and stuff, but that's cool. Like if they start having some logos on their stuff and can, I think there's some niche markets that are, Tops is taking over the major leagues and everything, but there's going to be a lot of growth in these random, or not random, but these more auxiliary things, because that's what, like Leaf's super creative with that. On It is doing, not just college football, but they're doing college volleyball and college baseball. I mean, if you're paying attention to like the MLB draft stuff and like say let's see, like Liam, I'm trying to think of it, Liam Doyle, the pitcher for Tennessee, he probably has some cards in On It right now, if you want to get into that. So like it's fun. Like if you're paying attention, it gives you more angles of attack, and it just makes it more fun and enjoyable.
Do you think the having these cards out of a lot like these high school kids that are they're not even in college yet, or they're just getting to college, brings more notoriety of them out, like just gets their name more out in mainstream and
Oh
gets
yeah.
people looking at them, because you're naming guys there that I'm thinking I haven't even heard of these guys yet, right?
Yeah,
So
like I mean, I was buying Jared Curtis cards before he signed. I forgot where he even went. He went to Tennessee or something, and I was buying his Leaf stuff. I was finding it at a deal where I could make a profit right away, like finding it for because what happens is, like you were saying, you're opening a lot of boxes. You're looking for, if you're opening Leaf, you're probably looking for the top guys in the MLB or the top guys in last year's draft. But if they're throwing high school guys in there, a lot of people just, oh, like that's nobody, and they throw it in a box. And there's layers to that. He might be nobody now, or he might be a little bit of a somebody, but not enough for them to care. But it's still a $15-$20 card. But they're putting it in their $2 box. So there's a lot of room there. And like I found a few Jared, Curtises, and I think in like the $5 under range. And at that time they were like $12, maybe $15 cards. I was cool. And then he was getting some hype, one of the top high school quarterbacks in the nation. And I think I ended up selling most of them in like the $20 to $30 range, $25-$30 range. Not big money, but it was still, I mean, I probably could have held even longer possibly and sold it. But it's fun, and if you're paying attention, it gives you another layer, and of collecting. Or collecting or flipping. In my case, flipping. So
If you find Michaela Blake's autographs while you're joking,
if
Don't
you're
even-
on Facebook, you're gonna see Zip's posts looking for Michaela Blake's cards.
all right, I'll look, man. I will look.
do you know about her? Because
I don't. Teach me, man.
Woo! Let's talk about this. I don't understand why she is not like she's at Vanderbilt. Maybe that's why. Okay. Do you know who has the single season freshman scoring record? Michaela Blake's in a single season in a single game. She beat Juju, and then you know what she did like a few weeks after that? She beat her own record.
Oh wow.
She had
There we
53
go.
and 55 this year, and she was 8th in the league in points per game. I'm sorry, 8th in the country for points per game. And she won the Tamika Catchings Player of the Year. She beat out Sarah Strong for that. The basketball, she scored 53 and 55. The Cardboard Collaborative. Yeah,
There we go.
I know the numbers, boss.
So Zip, look forward to me finding her here shortly.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that's how
absolutely.
you remember this stuff. Like now, that's in my head. I'll find something, and then
Just,
that's
like,
fun. I
go-
love it. We're all helping each other here.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think I've seen her cards, but like that name definitely was more focused on Sarah Strong, Juju Watkins. I'm trying to think of some others. Like one that I've been buying a little bit lately, and I'm not even 100% sure the market yet. So like I'm trying to get it a little under so that I can at least get my money or a little profit back right away. Is like Kiki Iriafen. I've been finding her a little bit. She was the 4th pick, I think, in the WNBA draft.
Yep.
Out of USC, I believe. So I'm trying to educate myself on the WNBA stuff. I'm still pretty much a novice on it, which is fun. I love that. I love going in and going, oh man, I got so much to learn. I'm like a curious person in general. Like, that's something I really enjoy about this is like and just reselling in general, because I do the general reselling. Like if you go to a garage sale, you could go and you could buy clothing, you could buy electronics, you could buy vintage toys, but within that there is 50,000 other layers. What brands of vintage toys? Which one do you want to focus on? Do you want to go to Knickerbocker 1970s toys, or do you want to go to the Kenner stuff in the 80s? Like, you can become experts on micro niches, and you can do that in cards too. And my goal with cards is to be dangerous enough to find cards in every niche, and then maybe hopefully dig deep in the ones that are super interesting to me. That was cool. I'm glad I learned that from you, man.
I just look at this Bowman U class and I'm just like, I'm someone you can ask Ken, like, I don't hold things either. Not quite as quick as you, like getting onto Whatnot, but I have a stack of singles that I'm literally about to launch my Whatnot page. So I'll be probably annoying in your DMs asking
No,
for
DM me. I'm happy to help, man. Anytime. Anybody who's interested, I'll help if I can.
But I just feel like buying like almost any of these women, not like almost any of these women who didn't go to the WNBA who are going to be back, like you're going to do well. And like you're talking about high their best cards so cheap, like comparatively if you look to like football, I mean Bowman baseball gets crazy. You know what I mean? It just seems disproportionate, especially with the trajectory of the WNBA. Like even Audie Crooks, like she was like she was less than a point less than Michaela Blake's points per game, and her stuff is criminally undervalued too.
Yeah,
and
I
she's at Iowa, right?
The other day, yeah, she's Iowa or Iowa State. I think it's Iowa State.
Iowa State
Cyclones. Yeah, and I just feel like there's a bunch, and Silas Swords. Her prices are really good, and
her stuff's already tougher to for me to like find the edge in, because a lot of people know about her, so like I can't find the discounts.
And I think too, she's a Michigan girl, and I think they just have such a
big
huge
team
following.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I love. I think like getting into all these little niches just make us, especially for bargain boxers or for anybody really, it gives us that much more stuff that we can find when we go out looking, whether it's at a yard sale, a flea market, or a card show. Because like I go to card shows sometimes being like, man, I am in a baseball mood, man. I want to find some Bowman First autos. I want to find this dude and that dude, and then there's none, and all I'm dealing with is basketball or something. And so like I have to try to keep myself as not, and the cool thing is that I'm interested in it. I think it's really hard for people to do this if they aren't interested. I don't really watch a lot of sports, honestly, but I am obsessive about paying attention to the trends of this and like looking at stats ever since I was a kid. Which is weird. I'm not like a huge like turn on the TV and watch sports guy, but I am like following stuff pretty closely, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah, you know what? I would have thought that you really paid attention more to the sport, just knowing all the players. But I think you kind of clarified that up at the beginning, that you just have a knack of just remembering.
I love sports, and it definitely came from when I was a kid, and I had maybe more patience, like to watch the games. But I'll watch a game now. And maybe it's just modern society, but I'll get kind of bored. So like actually watching the game, I'd watch the highlights, or I'd like to see how they did. I remember being a kid. That's what I loved about baseball cards, is flipping them around and looking at their stats, how many homers, their batting average. I'd love like knowing how old they were. I remember vividly looking at a back of a Gary Sheffield card. I'm like, oh man, he's only 27 years old. He's going 94, because he's born in 67. I remember all that. Like, just like, why do I know that? I have no idea. But I remember just going, oh, this is interesting. Where was he born? And like, I've always liked that kind of nerdy stuff. So I don't know why.
Wolfman's Goodies. He
up,
asked, Japanese Pokemon cards worth anything? And it really made me think just for a minute here. And I appreciate that question. Do you do anything with the TCG stuff?
I've tried a couple times. The issue with TCG for me is I think I'm not as interested, and that's the problem. I think you have to be like we are with sports cards, and I don't know if either of you guys do TCG, but like in general, how we are with sports cards, you have to have that passion for TCG to be great at it, because it seems tougher. So I have cursory knowledge. I'm not going to pass up certain stuff if it's obvious. I know Japanese typically is less valuable than American from what I've seen, like pack-wise. And in bargain boxes, it's typically you can get but they look cool. I don't 100% understand why they would be valued less, but it seems like the community prefers English, at least here.
Yeah.
But that's from what little I know.
I have a funny Pokemon story, and like we're like kind of renovating my basement. We're turning it into a little bit more honestly, it's like sports bar themed sort of down here now. But there's this box that was like a bunch of like Bowman paper sort of stuff, some chrome cards I picked out that were like $3 or $5, and then there are like these 5 Pokemon cards. Must have been from a collection I bought off Facebook Marketplace. And each card was like, there was like 6 of them. Each card was like between $20 and $50, and I'm like, what? This was just sitting, just sitting in a box down here, and I sent them out to PC Sports Cards because I would have no idea where to sell those, no clue. But
That's
yeah,
awesome. That's cool.
had no idea that I even had these or what they were, and I don't even remember, couldn't tell you what they were now, but I comped them and like sending out.
When I went cross country last year from Vegas to the National and back, I think it was on the way back, I was doing like the yard sales that we go to every year, the big cross country. Like there's a 127 sale that's like from Michigan to Alabama. I think we were in that area. And I got a book of Pokemon cards, and it was like $20-$40. And I was comping some of the stuff. And some of the cards were like $30, $40, $50. And I got home, and they sold. They were good. I still not 100% sure why. Like, I think I learned enough from that I would catch them in a book again. But I still don't 100% remember what they were or what made them special. They were modern, too. They weren't like vintage. So I'm fascinated by Pokemon cards. I've definitely tried some shorts on those because I think it's a massive audience that I'm not clued in on and could get views from. But the problem, I think, when I do those kind of videos is I'm not an expert on that like I am on sport, or I don't know as much. I know a bit about sports cards. So I'm just going in there saying, is this any good, guys? And I don't think that's very compelling to watch. I think people like to learn from people rather than teach the person doing a video. So I kind of don't do those that much.
It's actually funny. We had a conversation today, and I was talking with Rich Whittlebug Cards, and he sent me. I want to say it was like the Umbreon, like the hot Umbreon or whatever. Mm-hmm. There are 17,000 plus PSA 10s, and they still sell for $2,500 each. Is that just not? That doesn't make sense, right? Like,
I think it's more collectors in Pokemon than there are flippers. Like, I mean, I think there's more collectors in Pokemon than there are in modern sports card collecting, if that makes sense. I think there's a lot of vintage card collectors out there. I feel like when I'm around, like I went to Card Party 3 this last week, and just because my buddy, he has an 11-year-old and he wanted to go, he's like, let's just go. So we went, and I'm not a Pokemon guy, and those people, and I went to Collecticon in Orlando last month, so I went to 2 Pokemon events with no sports cards, which is brutal. And it was fun. Like, it's hard not to get excited. And most of these people, like even the flippers, you could tell they were collectors too. Like these, and we were watching people show binders of what they had, and like the collecting's totally different. It's a whole different world.
So the gotta catch 'em all is more of a lifestyle than a
It really is. Yeah, and like
they should put or else. Gotta catch 'em all or else, because
exactly
at a pop of 17,000, that's like we're talking like Zion base Prism, like Wemby base, like
I just think it's got to be because collectors are not looking to buy them and flip them. They're just like, okay, the going rate is 2,500, and there's more than 17,000 people who want to pay that much, for themselves, which, definitely in the Zion mania, I don't know how many of the people buying those were buying them because they were going to keep them. They were buying them because they were going up and up and up and up and up, forever until they went down to whatever they are now, $9 or whatever. But, you never, I always think of it this way. Like, you never make money, you never lose money in sports cards. This is a little off topic, but you never lose money in sports cards if you sell at a profit, because you never know how high something's going to go.
Yeah.
And we've all been there where we maybe sold right before we should have, or at the perfect moment, or way too late. There's a lot of people sitting on, Aristides Aquino or something right now that should have sold when he was hot 3-4 years ago. So as long as you're making a profit, that's why I do the fast nickel. If I can make a profit now, like I'll believe in a prospect and like them. But like, if somebody wants to pay me what I have it posted for right now, which is maybe under even what I would hope it would be worth in 6 months, I'm going to sell it now. I'll buy it again. Next time I go out, if I can. So that's just my thought.
And going back to the Pokemon just a minute too. I mean, Zip, I set up so many shows, and I mean, I think the Pokemon is just taking over a lot of these shows now. It used to be there there was a handful of dealers, then it was 10% and 20%. And I mean, I think we're at 50% or even over 50% now with a lot of these shows that are Pokemon.
In Front Row in Vegas, that area. Well, Front Row is a West Coast show that travels everywhere. They went. I kind of saw that progression from like 2-3 years ago, it being maybe 30% to where last show I went to, and this was like over a year ago, I think, was about 70% Pokemon. Still had a lot of card people, so I was fine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think I went to local shows around here. Like I'm going to Ultimate Bangers card show in Orlando. I bet you it's going to be a couple rows of Pokemon, and it should be because there's a lot of demand for that. And any show, it makes sense to have that as a feature. Then I think at some point you decide what your goal is as a show, right? Do you want to be like you want to be a collectible show, or do you want to be mostly a sports card show? What degree do you want Pokemon in it? 50-50 for, because you could probably fill 300 or 400 tables in a lot of places in the US with only Pokemon and TCG, so it'd just be a TCG only show. So
Well, I thought that too. I thought, wouldn't it be better if we had the TCG and then the sports cards separate? But I think too, for a lot of promoters, they like the idea of the TCG bringing in so many people.
of course, yeah, they
Right.
want,
I mean,
yeah,
the
that's
rooms
whole
are
goal.
crowded. The rooms are crowded all the time now.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good it's good overall. I mean, and then I think my angle is on that is to try to figure out what I like within that I'd be passionate about. I've opened a lot of One Piece, and I kind of like that, and it's kind of a fringe thing. It's not fringe. It's like a third ranked thing in that community right now. So I don't know. Thankfully, I think sports cards are not going anywhere. It's just like shows are either going to get bigger because they're going to have more Pokemon vendors, and we're going to have our section of the same amount of sports card dealers as always, or else. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jonathan says nothing worse than driving an hour for sports cards.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that they advertise it correctly. Let people know that I don't know how you could let somebody know the percentages, but like, yeah, I mean, I guess the only way you can find out if a show's worth it sometimes in that aspect is to go and then go, I guess I'm not going back to that one because it's mostly TCG.
Yeah. Another vintage card dealer. Do you expect dealers, repackers to pay strong at the National? I really think between now and the Nationals, where they'll pay the strongest, right? Trying to move a lot of people
I like your thinking on that. That's actually a very good point. I think a lot of people, like you can go on the Instagram of like Card Collector too. He's got a list of stuff he's looking for right now, like his Grove City show or whatever, and that's for the National. Like one of his top one was like, I'm looking for Pete Crow Armstrong, and that's not because he lives in Ohio. It's because he's going to Chicago for the National. You know what I mean? It makes sense. So I think I think there's gonna be a lot of heavy, more than likely a lot of heavy buying this month in shows. I would guess, in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah.
With you at the National, when you're buying, like you're gonna have days, extended period of time going through the bargain boxes. Are you gonna have like a big post-national show, or like are you gonna sell same day? Or I mean, that could be
it's kind of depends. I mean, it kind of depends on what my buddies want to do. If Rod and Tim, because I mean, we have our Dibdit channel, so we might do Dibdit card show there, to celebrate because we've got our own thing.
That's actually a great point. Tell everyone here. Talk about Dibdit. Scream it to the world.
Yeah, so Dibdit is on District, if you guys know what District is, but it's really cool. It kind of combines. So first off, Dibdit is a general marketplace that does pop culture, and then we split that off mostly because me and the guys are passionate about sports cards into Dibdit cards. We have Dibdit threads. A lot of people might not know that. We have Tiquity, which is antiques. We have a whole bunch of sites within that we're part of. But basically what Dibdit cards is it has the aspect of live auction like Whatnot. It has a buy it now section, which Whatnot has now too, if you guys didn't know. Yeah, I've sold some stuff that way. And we also kind of have a Discord kind of feature on the side where people can talk. So it's kind of like all three of those. And it's kind of using our social media to help people go live. So what happens is, like, you'll go live in a Dibdit cards, and you can kind of get some of the following, or at least introduced to some of the people that follow us when they go live. So we have a group of people, like, I wonder, there might be some people live on Dibdit cards right now. Typically we have several lives every day on Dibdit cards, and then we have lives on everything else. So, and then you could do basically the same thing that you do on Whatnot. We've been working on it a while. It's something that is part of all of our businesses at this point, and I really love it. I mean, it's something I go live every Wednesday night there myself, 7 to 9, typically with Tim from Over the Years Sports. We do box breaks. But we're very careful. We're only have a few people who are allowed to do box breaks right now. We're rolling that out slowly, so we have people that we trust and we want to run it. We're not in a rush with anything. We're just slow and steady, build it up. It's gonna be a year or decades project, but it's gonna be fun.
I mean, that's exciting. You're so essentially starting a live selling.
Yeah,
platform.
we got somebody live right now. Bobcat Sports Cards is live right now on Dibdit. So
cool.
Dibdit Cards rather.
What's the traffic look like? So like obviously you have a large whatnot presence too. I know you sell, like, what does the traffic look like? Different.
The traffic's less there right now. I mean, It depends on. I would say like on Whatnot, I get right now, because I kind of focused heavy on Dibdit Cards for a while and stayed away from Whatnot a little bit. Now I'm kind of focusing, trying to get it more balanced. So my Whatnot right now is 25 to 60 people, depending on the moment. And then Dibdit Cards for me is probably around 15 to 40-ish. Maybe sometimes it does go higher sometimes. But right now, Bobcat Sports Cards, they have like 8 people on there right now watching. But I would hope that there's some buyers in there. And it's cool. Like, you can just build it just like you build a Whatnot, though. You can go on there, and if you're consistent and you have stuff that people want, you're going to start getting people who will be at your shows just like anywhere else.
Yeah, and then I guess another thing with the live selling, obviously you're so into content, you have a presence on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Like, aside from that, what do you think are some important strategies to, I don't know, building like a Whatnot channel, like you said? What are some things you think are paramount?
Well, social media is super helpful. So, but setting that aside, say you don't have social media, it's consistency is the number one thing. Be live at a certain schedule consistently. Okay. Like, whether that's, I mean, you probably got to do it more than once a month. So like, I'd say at least once a week on like whatever day you choose, and then build it up slowly from there. And you've got a problem with an auction anywhere you go is you have to take some risks. You can't hide all your good stuff always. Like, sometimes it's always a tough balance, because obviously a seller wants to make money on their cards, but you're not always going to, unfortunately. So you've got to build it up. It takes time. You got to be willing probably to consider it almost a marketing cost, taking loss up front at times, just to build up, have people in there. And really, for a good auction, and I learned this doing live auctions, is I like to goof off. I like to joke around a lot. I want a good vibe. I want people to have a good time whether they buy or don't buy. I don't want any pressure. I don't want people to feel like they got to buy. I don't want people to feel bad if they got a deal. I want it to have a certain vibe. That's important to me, because I think I'm doing my job if somebody goes, I don't really have any money to buy cards tonight, but I want to go hang out on on Whatnot or Dibdit Cards with Cary. That would be a win for me. Like, they just want to come hang out, and then obviously that over time, that when the people do have money they want to invest in flipping or just collecting, they'll probably think of me, right? And they'll wait till my show. And it's a grind. It's the same thing with anything. Building a podcast, building a channel. It's every single day.
Slow and steady
towards it. Slow and steady. There's really no trick to it, other than part of that is to learn how to make better content or better shows or be better at finding stuff to flip. All that's part of the process, but ultimately it's just showing up, taking your lumps and learning from them. And trust me, they don't end the lumps. You just keep getting them, and you keep learning something new. You never really make it. You just keep pushing yourself, and that's the fun of it.
It's interesting. A lot of people that I know who have turned to Whatnot to do Whatnot, sell on Whatnot and streams. I mean, I never feel that they really think it through. I mean, I think they expect to make money immediately from day one. And I say, it's like, I would have to think, and I've been in a lot of Whatnot streams, and just watch people sit there and not sell things and get frustrated and get upset and things like that. And you're right. I think you have to be prepared to take a lot of L's before you start getting those victories, before, you get that following.
And even when you have the following, you're still going to get L's. It's the thing. There's still going to be off nights. And honestly, there's nights when you're not feeling great. Like, you're just like, it is bothering you that you're struggling. So the key is to try to keep as level-headed as possible. Yeah. And like, I'm not even perfect at that. There's nights where I'm like, I'm probably going to end early, guys. I can't deal with this much more tonight. So like, sometimes that's the way to do it as well. But it's an interesting thing. I mean, the fact that we can the difference I feel like between the old days, like for me when I was a kid, is like getting a card, looking at Beckett, putting it in my binder, putting a sticker saying this card's worth 75 cents. You know, in a hypothetical world where I would sell it, I did like one card show when I was a kid, and maybe you could go to a card shop and flip it to the guy there or do a yard sale. But now it's just like the market's so different. Like you could find cards and sell them immediately. Now, whether you're profitable or not, that's going to take effort and work and learning. But the fact that you can just immediately flip cards changes everything. And it's an exciting time to be in sports cards for that part of it. But also if you're a collector, there's so many places you can go find deals. You know, and you know, the more you collect, the easier it is, because maybe you aren't finding your PC guy today, but you have a team and you're, you know, or a sport that you're into, you can find it.
And it's so much easy. It should be easier too to complete those sets and find those cards that you're searching for.
Part of the fun, and I see this like at the National, especially like all the guys going through the dime boxes, finishing sets. Part of that fun is going out and hunting for it. I get it. Like I want to actually go physically, tactile, find the card in a box. There's still a little bit of that in the culture, but for a lot of people, especially younger kids, I think their bargain boxing is a whatnot, and that's how I like to think of it. Is like, I'm the bargain box guy. You're coming to bargain box on my bargain box, and hopefully I'm good enough at what I do that I can make the profit in between. You know, just like a person setting up a bargain box at a card show, same diff.
I want to thank you for coming on. This has been
it's been awesome.
Awesome. And I want to make a plan to meet up with you out at the National. I will be out there from Wednesday to Sunday. So
well, hit me up, man. I'm gonna be there all 5 days, all day. Trade nights, everything. It's the most fun. I'm gonna milk every moment there I can.
And after watching your videos, I think I'm gonna get myself a GoPro that I can strap on.
Do it. I'm happy to, give you tips on that too.
Yeah, I love that first person. You know,
I think there's a lot to be said for that. Like it's so interesting to me, because if you watch like the other niche that I'm in, my American Arbitrage page, it's like in garage sales, it's all GoPros, because it would be weird to bring a camera crew to a garage sale unless you're like Gary Vee or something, right? So like that is where I come from, and I think it gives you like a lot of there is more people doing it, and there has always been a few, but it's an interesting way to show digging through cards a little different. It allows you to have 8 minutes if you want of you just digging with, you know, out even talking if you want. Whereas like if you're doing a classical, like you're on camera video, like a lot of people in sports cards do, you have to be kind of entertaining that whole time. You can't, it's harder to show like the actual card. And that's what's important to me. I want it to be entertaining, and I want it to be a video that people watch. That's what I do. But ultimately I want it to be about the cards, like what I find and the cool interactions I have with people. Typically positive ones. Sometimes they're not, but usually they're positive. So.
Because I think people would rather see the cards I'm looking at, right, than to listen to me talk.
Yeah, but there's some of it too. Like I've really pushed myself a little bit to talk about, like, if I find a card that I think's interesting for whatever reason, even if it's not important, valuable, I'm like, I remember opening these packs in 1993. I'll talk about it sometimes in my video, and I'm surprised how often like those are the moments that people comment about, because it's like the moment where they could connect to it. They're like, oh man, I'm like that too. When I was a kid, my dad took me to the card shops too. You know, I had an allowance every Saturday I went, you know. So like that's where, and connection's important for growing content and podcasts and a whatnot and everything. So
try to get Ken to dig in some boxes out there.
All right, there's plenty. There's plenty to dig
Well,
for.
I think I'm going to be able to find WNBA boxes out there.
Dude, you will.
Yeah.
Happy.
One of my favorite boxes ever was at the Burbank Sports Card Show, and it was pricey, but it was the actual guys, and it's the West Coast Card Show now, but back then it was Burbank, and it was the Burbank booth, and they put all the jersey match numbered cards in one box. So
that's insane.
If it was like a LeBron 23/99, it was in there, and it was priced accordingly, you know, but still, like, you could theoretically maybe make more because nobody else has that card, so it's kind of tough. But like I had fun looking. So like you'll find some in the big shows, you know, you'll find some eclectic stuff for sure.
Yeah,
I think there'll be a lot of WNBA stuff though this year. A lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually doing the West Coast Card Show this year as well.
Awesome, man. Yeah. I'm looking forward to going back at some point. That was my main place when I lived out in Vegas and Utah. I was close enough, but now it's part of the nice part about being over here is there's a lot more shows, but I miss some of the West Coast ones now.
Yeah.
We may have to get Cary and the boys up to the EC3 con at Mohegan.
Is that Michigan or where?
No, it's Connecticut.
Connecticut. Oh, duh. Yeah. Sorry.
It's Connecticut, but it's a pretty good show.
I want to do it, man. I want to do the East Coast stuff. Like, I mean, I think I'm gonna try to go to Chantilly when November or October, one of the next ones. I think they just had one. Because that's Tim's show. I'd like to go up to like New York, Connecticut. Like that's one area of the U.S. I haven't spent much time in. Like I've never been to Boston. I've never been to Connecticut.
The Boston card scene is amazing in my opinion.
Yeah.
I've
heard nothing but good things about it.
Do whenever I can. Like my one Card Vault, because you know they're
the
their
Tom
original,
Brady store.
Yeah, they're up there. And they actually had shows. I mean, Ken set up and I set up at a Fenway Park show, which were
cool.
So cool. And
they had one at Gillette too, didn't they? Like
I was just gonna say I tagged along with Ken to Gillette, and then they have a recurring show at TD Garden at their nightclub at Big Night Live. Because that's just it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's cool that they could do that.
We're super lucky up here. I mean, he just listed 3 shows. We get a show, Mohegan Sun, like 3 times a year, a massive show at the casino there, right? We have other shows here in Connecticut.
Come up. I got to do that. It'd be cool if we get all the guys up too. That's the one thing I love. That's probably one of the best parts about being out here. Not only like the flea market scene's better for both sports cards and regular stuff.
Yeah.
But when I was in Vegas, when I was in Utah, we actually had like 2 or 3 shows a month when I was there, which was pretty solid for a smaller area. I went to Vegas thinking it was going to be huge, and we had like 1 show every other month. And I'd have to go to California, which is 4 or 5 hours away, and I didn't want to do that all the time, so I had a lot less shows. Here in Florida, there's 2 good shows this weekend. Like I can't even imagine a scenario on the West Coast where I'd have to choose between 2 shows. Just take what I can get, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming up there it's probably the same. There's probably a show every weekend.
Every weekend, sometimes Saturday and Sunday.
Way more than 1 show. Ken, you basically started the podcast off of your dealer ventures, and you had weekly content to give because you're setting up every week because there's just availability every single week. So it's unbelievable.
That's the dream. That's nowhere I'd rather be like on a Saturday than a card show going through. You know, it's just it's my favorite thing to do. For sure, and I'm glad that I can do it for a living. So it's a blessing.
Absolutely.
Do what you love, right?
Hell yeah, man.
All right, tell everybody if they have questions for you, if they want to reach out, where they can find you.
Okay, I'm American Arbitrage Cards. You can find me everywhere: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. No Banger Sports Card Podcast. If you want to check out me, Rod, and Timmy, we're talking every week about mostly, stuff in the culture and a lot of low end, bargain box kind of stuff that we're into. Except Rod doesn't follow the rules; he's just spending way too much money right now. And then I do my regular channel too, American Arbitrage. I have a reselling podcast called Trash to Cash. We're almost at 200 episodes. If you guys want to. We mostly just make fun of people on that, like make fun of our co-host on that. Where at this point it's just debauchery, but you could, if you want to find content, I've got it in a lot of places. So hopefully you don't get sick of it.
Yeah. Again, thank you for coming on. This was great, and I look forward to meeting you in person out in Chicago.
Likewise, man. Likewise. I'll see you out there, man.
Great. Take care.
Take care, guys. Good
See
talking to
ya.
everybody.